Have you ever trusted someone so completely, so deeply, that the idea of them ever hurting you was the last thing on your mind? The kind of trust that makes you feel safe, even when the world around you feels uncertain? That's exactly where my story begins. My name is Emily, and for the longest time, I thought I had it all: love, friendship, and a future that looked perfect from every angle. But sometimes what seems perfect on the surface hides the most painful truths underneath. I'm from a small town in the US, nothing glamorous or extraordinary, just a regular girl, working a regular job, living a life I thought was stable and happy. And at the center of that life were two people I trusted more than anyone: my boyfriend Jason and my best friend Rachel. Jason and I met in college, back when everything still felt new and full of promise. He was the kind of guy you'd notice without even trying. Tall, with that easy smile that made you believe he was the most genuine person in the world. We crossed paths in the campus library, and I still remember the moment he asked if he could help me find a book. It wasn't just the question, but the kindness in his eyes that caught me off guard. I had never expected that small interaction to change my life so much. Over time, Jason and I grew closer. Our relationship blossomed slowly, naturally. He was the kind of boyfriend who remembered every little detail I mentioned, who showed up not just physically, but emotionally. When I was stressed about exams, he was my calm. When I felt down, he was my strength. There was a warmth in his presence that made me feel like no matter what happened, I wasn't alone. It was a love I never thought I'd find, and I clung to it like it was my lifeline. Then there was Rachel, my best friend since high school. We had been through everything together: heartbreaks, family problems, dreams and disappointments. Rachel wasn't just a friend, she was the sister I never had. We shared secrets no one else knew, dreams no one else understood. Our bond was unbreakable, or so I thought. When Jason and Rachel met, I felt like the luckiest person alive. They hit it off instantly, the kind of friendship that felt effortless. They joked, teased, and planned things like a little team. I remember feeling proud, thinking, this is perfect. They both care about me, and they get along so well. It was as if the three of us were meant to be in each other's lives forever. We spent countless weekends together: movie nights, dinners, road trips, the kind of moments that make you believe in forever. I remember sitting on the couch one chilly autumn evening with Jason and Rachel on either side of me, their laughter filling the room like music. It felt like home, the kind of warmth you can't describe but only feel in your heart. Every milestone, every happy moment, they were there. Birthdays, graduations, even the small victories like landing a new job or finishing a tough project. They celebrated me like they were their whole world, and I did the same for them. I thought that kind of love and friendship was rare, something special that few get to experience. And because of that, I never taught to question anything. I trusted Jason with my heart completely. I trusted Rachel with my soul. There was no room for doubt, no space for suspicion. Their smiles were genuine, their words sincere. They were my people. Sometimes when I look back, I wonder if I was too naive, if my heart was too blind to see the cracks beneath the surface. But at the time, I believed in them wholeheartedly. I believed in us. I want you to think about your own life for a moment. Have you ever trusted someone so deeply that the possibility of betrayal was unthinkable? Someone you thought you could always count on no matter what? Maybe it was a lover, a friend, or a family member. Whatever your story is, I'm sure you understand how powerful that trust feels. Because that's where my story starts, in the warmth of perfect trust and love. But perfect things don't always stay perfect. I want you to keep that feeling with you as we move forward in this story. Hold on to that warmth, because soon things began to change in ways I never imagined. The people I trusted most, the people I thought would never hurt me, slowly became strangers, and the life I built around them started to crumble. But before that happened, there were signs.
Small, almost invisible at first, like cracks in a beautiful glass vase that you don't notice until it shatters. That's what I want to share with you next. How suspicion crept in quietly, how my perfect world began to feel fragile. If you've ever been in a place where your heart tells you something isn't right, but your mind refuses to listen, then you'll understand what comes next. Thank you for listening so far. If this story already touches something inside you, hold on tight because it's about to get real. The journey from trust to betrayal isn't easy to tell, but it's a story worth sharing. And at the end, I'll ask you to like, share, and subscribe if you want to hear the rest, because this isn't just my story. It's a story for anyone who's ever loved and lost, trusted and been hurt, and learned to heal again.
Have you ever noticed little things changing in someone you love? Small shifts that don't seem like a big deal at first, but slowly start to build up until they can't be ignored. Maybe a glance that's a little too quick to hide, a text message that's suddenly secretive, or a late night that's just work but feels like something else. If you've ever been there, you know how confusing it can be. You want to believe the best, but a quiet voice inside you grows louder with doubt. That's exactly where I found myself after months of pure happiness with Jason and Rachel. The perfect picture I'd held onto began to blur. It didn't happen overnight. It was slow, subtle, but the signs were there if I'd been brave enough to see them. It started with Jason's phone. Before, his phone was always just another part of the day. He'd leave it on the kitchen counter, unlocked, with messages popping up on the screen that I could see. Sometimes I'd even tease him about a text from a friend or a funny meme. It was innocent, simple, and comforting. I never thought twice about privacy between us. It wasn't something we worried about. But then, without warning, that changed. Jason suddenly became protective of his phone. It was never left out in the open anymore. He started putting it in his pocket or hiding it in his bag, even when we were sitting together. I noticed how his hands would twitch whenever it buzzed with a notification. The quick glance, the flicker of worry in his eyes, all things I never saw before. At first, I told myself it was normal. Everyone deserves privacy, right? Maybe he was just stressed at work or didn't want to be distracted when we were together. I convinced myself that I was overthinking, but still, every time his phone buzzed and he pulled it away from me, a little knot formed deep inside my chest. Then came the late nights. Jason was ambitious. He worked hard. So when he said he had to stay late at work, I didn't question it. I even admired his dedication. But those late nights became more frequent. What used to be once in a while turned into a routine. Phone calls in hushed tones, quick texts that he'd delete, and excuses that felt rehearsed. One night, I waited for him to come home late. Hours passed. My phone screen lit up with a message, but it wasn't from Jason. It was from Rachel. Rachel, my best friend. She was supposed to be my safe place, the one person I could trust without question. But lately, she was different too. Rachel's attitude shifted. She became distant, distracted. Our daily conversations lost their warmth. When I asked her about it, she smiled and said everything was fine, but her eyes told a different story. She started avoiding me, canceling plans, ignoring messages, and steering away from certain topics. When I brought up Jason, she grew uneasy. There was something she wasn't saying. I could feel it, but I didn't want to face it. Every time I tried to push for answers, I hit a wall. Rachel's silence was louder than words. My mind was a battlefield. I was desperate to believe everything was okay, that maybe I was just imagining things. But deep inside, I felt a cold shadow creeping over my happiness. I blamed myself. Maybe I was being paranoid. Maybe I was too needy. Maybe I was just scared of losing what I had. I told myself to be patient, to trust them, to give them the benefit of the doubt. Of the silence, the secrets, and the lies, they were breaking me.
I remember a night when Jason came home late again. He was quiet, avoiding my questions, checking his phone every few minutes. Rachel didn't answer my calls or texts. I sat alone, tears burning behind my eyes, wondering if my worst fears were true. That's the cruelest part of suspicion, not knowing what to believe, caught between hope and dread. I want you to think about your own life. Have you ever ignored warning signs because you didn't want to face the truth? Maybe you stayed silent, hoping things would get better, but deep down, you knew they wouldn't. I want you to share that with me in the comments below. If you've been through something like this, you're not alone. If this story is hitting close to your heart, please share it with someone who might need to hear it. Because sometimes the hardest truths begin with the smallest signs, and the courage to see them is the first step to healing.
Have you ever had that gut-wrenching moment where everything you believed in crashes down in an instant? Where a secret you never expected to find turns your entire world upside down? That moment came to me one ordinary day, the day I discovered the truth about Jason and Rachel, the truth that shattered my heart into pieces. For weeks, I had felt the tension in the air, but pushed it away. I ignored the signs. I told myself I was being paranoid, but deep down, I knew something was wrong. My instincts whispered warnings I couldn't silence. Yet, I kept pretending that everything was fine, for my own sanity, for the hope that maybe it was all just a misunderstanding. But some truths don't wait for us to be ready. It was a Saturday afternoon. I had the house to myself. Jason and Rachel said they were going out to grab some coffee. I didn't think twice. I trusted them. Or so I thought. I was cleaning the living room when my phone buzzed. It was a notification from Jason's account. We shared some passwords, so his messages sometimes appeared on my phone for convenience. I was about to ignore it when a message preview popped up and my heart stopped. The message wasn't meant for me. It was from Rachel. It read, "I can't stop thinking about you. Last night was perfect. Can't wait to see you again." My hands trembled. I blinked, thinking maybe my eyes were playing tricks on me. I looked again. Another message followed. "I wish Emily never found out." Every word burned like fire across my skin. My mind raced, trying to make sense of what I was reading. It couldn't be real. Not them. Not my Jason and Rachel. I felt like the floor was slipping beneath me. My breath caught in my throat. The air grew heavy, suffocating. For a moment, I stood frozen, heart pounding like a drum. I wanted to scream. I wanted to run away. But I was trapped in a nightmare of my own making. Then I found more. Pictures on Jason's phone, messages on Rachel's, little traces of a secret life that neither of them dared to share with me. Late-night texts full of longing, secret meetings hidden behind excuses, stolen moments wrapped in lies. Each discovery was like a knife twisting deeper into my chest. The betrayal was unbearable. The people I had loved and trusted the most were the ones who had stabbed me in the back. I couldn't hold back the tears anymore. They came in waves, hot, desperate, unstoppable. I sat down on the couch, my head in my hands, trying to process the pain. How could they do this? How could Jason cheat on me with my best friend? The one person I confided in, the one who promised to stand by me through everything. Confusion overwhelmed me. I questioned everything. Our conversations, their smiles, the way they acted around me. Was any of it real? I felt completely alone, even though I was surrounded by memories of their laughter and love. But the worst part was the silence. Neither Jason nor Rachel had given me a clue. No warning, no explanation, just betrayal wrapped in deceit.
I thought about confronting them, but the fear held me back. What if they denied it? What if I was wrong? What if this shattered the fragile pieces of my heart beyond repair? I was torn between the two people I cared about most, unable to reconcile the love I felt with the betrayal I saw. If you ever found out your best friend was betraying you, how would you react? Would you confront them immediately? Would you try to understand or just walk away? I want to know what you think. Please share in the comments below. This moment changed everything. It was the turning point when innocence died and reality hit hard. If you feel for Emily and want to hear how she dealt with this heartbreak, please like this video and subscribe. The story isn't over yet. The hardest part is still to come.
Have you ever faced a moment in your life where everything you thought was solid suddenly crumbled beneath your feet? A moment when the people you loved most looked at you with eyes you no longer recognized. That's exactly where I found myself after I discovered Jason and Rachel's betrayal, caught in a storm of confusion, anger, sadness, and heartbreak that felt endless. When I first confronted Jason, my heart was pounding in my chest like it wanted to escape. I could barely find the words, but I needed answers. I needed to hear the truth from him. I remember sitting across the table from him, the silence thick between us. "Jason," I said, voice shaking. "Why? How could you do this to me? With Rachel?" He looked away, unable to meet my eyes. There was a long pause before he spoke, and when he did, his voice was soft, almost defeated. "Emily, it wasn't supposed to happen. It just did." That answer hurt more than anything. The casualness of it stung, like I was some broken thing he had no responsibility for. He tried to explain, talking about confusion, mistakes, and emotions he didn't understand, but none of it made the pain go away. Jason's denial turned to guilt quickly. I could see it in the way he avoided my gaze, the tightness in his jaw, but no apology could undo the betrayal. Then came Rachel. When I confronted her, she was different. She was cold, almost distant. At first, she tried to deflect, to say it wasn't what it looked like, but as I pushed harder, the walls crumbled. "I'm sorry, Emily," she whispered, tears running down her face. "I never meant to hurt you. It just happened." Her regret felt genuine, but it didn't erase the betrayal. The friend I trusted with my secrets had chosen to be the reason for my heartbreak. I felt like my world was falling apart piece by piece. After those conversations, I was left alone with my thoughts and emotions swirling like a storm. Anger, sharp and burning, surged through me. How could they do this? How could two people I loved most be the ones to hurt me the deepest? Sadness wrapped around me like a heavy blanket. Nights were the hardest. Alone in my room, the silence amplified the emptiness inside. Memories played like a broken record. Laughter that now felt fake. Smiles that felt like lies. Disbelief haunted me. I kept asking myself if I was imagining it all. Maybe it was a nightmare I'd wake from. But the evidence was too clear. The betrayal was real. Isolation became my refuge and my prison. I didn't want to face anyone. How could I explain this pain? How could I admit that my boyfriend and best friend had torn my heart apart? But I knew I needed support. Slowly, I reached out to my family and a few close friends. Their love and understanding became a lifeline. They listened without judgment and reminded me I wasn't alone. The healing process wasn't easy. It was a roller coaster of emotions, good days and terrible days, moments of hope and moments of despair. I struggled with forgiveness, for Jason, for Rachel, but most importantly, for myself. I had to learn to let go of the guilt and shame I carried, to remind myself that their betrayal was not my fault. This journey taught me something powerful, that healing is possible even after the deepest wounds.
It taught me that trust, once broken, can be rebuilt, but it requires time, patience, and self-love. If you've ever had to rebuild trust after a deep betrayal, you understand how hard it can be. I'd love to hear how you coped. Please share your stories in the comments below. If you believe in healing and strength after heartbreak, please like and share this story because no one should feel alone in their pain.
When everything around you falls apart, when the people you trusted the most betray you, it feels like your world has been ripped to pieces. But what happens next? How do you pick up those broken shards and build something new? That was my journey after Jason and Rachel. And though it was the hardest path I ever walked, it taught me lessons I will carry for a lifetime. At first, I didn't know how to move forward. The pain was raw and sharp. I was filled with anger, sadness, confusion, and a deep sense of loss. I questioned myself, my worth, my judgment, even my ability to love again. It was as if the betrayal had shaken the very foundation of who I was. But I knew one thing: I couldn't let this define me. I couldn't let their mistakes steal my future. So I made a choice. I chose to walk away from both Jason and Rachel, not out of bitterness or revenge, but out of respect for myself. I realized that to heal, I had to create space for self-love and boundaries. I began by focusing on myself. I rediscovered passions I had neglected, things that brought me joy beyond relationships. I started journaling, writing down my feelings, my hopes, my fears, anything that helped me make sense of the storm inside. Each word on paper was a step toward healing. I surrounded myself with people who truly cared, family and friends who lifted me up and reminded me of my value. Their support was a lifeline when I felt like giving up. Therapy became a sanctuary, a place to untangle the mess of emotions and rebuild my confidence. It helped me understand that betrayal is not a reflection of my worth, but a reflection of others' choices. Slowly, I began to forgive. Not to forget, but to free myself from the chains of anger and resentment. Forgiveness wasn't easy. It was a process, sometimes a battle. But with every day that passed, I felt lighter. I learned to set boundaries, to protect my heart from those who don't deserve it. I understood that love should never come at the cost of respect and honesty. Most importantly, I learned that my happiness and peace come first, that I am enough, just as I am, and I don't need someone else's approval or presence to feel whole. This journey wasn't about Jason or Rachel anymore. It was about me reclaiming my life and my power. If you're going through a similar pain right now, feeling lost, betrayed, or broken, know this: you are not alone. Healing is possible. You are worthy of love, respect, and happiness, and you have the strength to rise again. What's the most important lesson you've learned from a betrayal? I'd love to hear your stories and thoughts. Please share them in the comments. If this story has touched you or inspired you, please subscribe for more true stories of overcoming tough times. Don't forget to hit the bell icon so you never miss a new video. Remember, sometimes the darkest moments lead to the brightest new beginnings. Keep believing. Keep moving forward.